The day I saw my own signature staring back at me from a document I had never touched, I knew my brother had been planning this for years. My name is Daniel Harper. I'm 45, a structural engineer in Dallas. My life isn't glamorous, but I built it solid, just like the bridges and foundations I've spent 2 decades designing. After the divorce 3 years ago, I settled into an apartment near White Rock Lake, paid child support on time, and kept weekends sacred with my son Evan. I didn't ask for much. Stability was enough. Then came the email. Subject line, Acknowledgement of Transfer Harper Construction Holdings. My family's company. I clicked, half expecting spam. Inside was a PDF, stamped and notarized, showing that I, Daniel Harper, had agreed to sell my 20% stake to my younger brother Ethan for the sum of $1. $1. For the legacy my father had built with calloused hands, the company that carried our name across skylines. The signature looked like mine. The same heavy slant on the D, the rushed loop on the H. But I knew my pen strokes. I'd spent enough late nights initialing design packets to recognize my own rhythm. This wasn't me. It was a mask in ink. I called the corporate secretary. She sounded puzzled. Daniel, the board already ratified the transfer last week. Ethan submitted everything, signature, notary seal, even your driver's license copy. My chest went cold. I never signed anything. I never authorized this. Silence. Then, you should talk to Ethan. I did. I stormed into the downtown office that still bore Dad's name on the lobby plaque. Ethan met me with that salesman's smile he's perfected since we were kids. Danny, you're overreacting. It's just paperwork. Cleaner structure before the city contract. What city contract? He leaned back in Dad's old leather chair, laced fingers across his chest. The new municipal stadium project. $20 million in guaranteed work. The board needed clarity, 1 leader, 1 signature. You were slowing things down. My throat tightened. So you erased me? Not erased. Streamlined, he smirked. It's nothing personal, brother. Just business. Through the glass wall, I saw Laura, my ex-wife, standing with Evan. Ethan had invited them here like props in his play. Laura smiled faintly, hand on our son's shoulder, as if to say, this is better for everyone. Evan wouldn't even meet my eyes. That's when I realized the betrayal ran deeper than ink. Ethan hadn't just stolen my signature. He was trying to steal my place in my own family. And I knew this was only the beginning. I didn't leave the office quietly. Streamlined? My voice cracked against the glass walls. You forged my name and call that streamlined? Ethan didn't flinch. He leaned back farther in Dad's chair, crossing his legs like some polished executive. Lower your voice. Clients are in the building. Good. Let them hear what kind of man you are. He chuckled. Daniel, stop embarrassing yourself. The documents are notarized. The board signed off. You're out. The company moves forward, and you can move on. You think a forged scrawl and a friendly notary make you legitimate. Before he could answer, the conference room door opened. Laura stepped in, pulling Evan with her. My ex-wife's heels clicked sharp on the tile. What's going on? She asked Ethan, but her eyes flicked to me. Ethan rose like a host welcoming honored guests. Nothing dramatic, just clarifying business matters with my brother. He rested a hand on Evan's shoulder. Your dad's upset about the reorganization. Reorganization? I snapped. It's theft, Laura. He's stolen my shares, my vote, everything Dad left us. Laura crossed her arms, protective. Daniel, maybe this is for the best. You've always hated board politics. You said so yourself after the divorce. That doesn't mean I agreed to be erased. Ethan's smirk deepened. Come on, Danny. You've been distracted. Bills, custody schedules. The company needs energy, focus, fresh leadership. Fresh leadership? I laughed bitterly. Dad trusted me with site safety at 22 because you were too busy charming investors. I was the one crawling under scaffolds at midnight to fix design flaws. I earned every % of this company. Laura's expression hardened. Daniel, shouting won't change facts. If Ethan has the paperwork forged in my name. Evan finally spoke, voice quiet. Dad, Uncle Ethan said you wanted out, that you signed because you were tired of fighting. My stomach turned. He told you that? Ethan's tone shifted to faux concern. Evan doesn't need to hear ugly details. He just needs stability, something I can provide. I saw it then. The real play. Ethan wasn't just cutting me out of the company. He was casting himself as the stable uncle, the provider, the man Laura could lean on while painting me as the reckless, bitter one. Rage burned through me. I slammed my palm on the desk. Listen to me, both of you. That signature isn't mine. This is fraud, and when it blows up, don't say I didn't warn you. Ethan's mask slipped for just a second, annoyance flickering in his eyes. Then he straightened, voice calm. Meeting's over. Security will show you out. 2 men in suits appeared, like he'd planned this cue. My own father's company, and I was being escorted out like a trespasser. As I walked past Laura and Evan, I searched my son's face. He wouldn't look at me. My ex-wife just shook her head, as if I'd ruined another dinner. The humiliation cut deeper than the theft. Ethan hadn't just robbed me of money. He'd staged a public stripping of my identity, right in front of my family. In the parking garage, I sat in my truck, gripping the wheel until my knuckles whitened. Every review I'd aced, every overnight pour I'd supervised, every late-night call with city inspectors, all erased by a forged signature and my brother's smirk. I whispered to the empty cab, "This isn't over." But the echo came back smaller, like the world didn't believe me. The fallout came fast. By the next morning, my email access was revoked. Company laptop locked. Even my security badge blinked red at the turnstile when I tried to enter. A guard I'd known 10 years shrugged helplessly. Orders from upstairs, Daniel. Upstairs. My father's office, now Ethan's throne. I drove home and tried calling a few colleagues. Most didn't pick up. The ones who did sounded nervous. Dan, I can't get in the middle, one muttered before hanging up. Another whispered, Ethan says you cashed out, that you wanted the money more than the company. Money? What money? At lunch, my phone buzzed with a group text from our cousins. Heard you sold your shares. Bold move. Didn't think you'd walk away like that. I typed back furiously, I didn't sell, it's forged. No replies. Half an hour later, I saw I'd been removed from the group thread altogether. Isolation moves faster than gossip. That night, Laura called, voice cool as glass. Ethan says you're spiraling. Is that true? Spiraling? Laura, he forged my name. He's stealing everything. She sighed. Look, I don't want Evan caught in the middle. Maybe just take some time off. Work somewhere else. You'll feel better. Somewhere else? This is my father's company. Then why does everyone else think you walked away? Her words hit harder than she knew. Everyone else. My reputation was crumbling, not from my mistakes, but from Ethan's script, and people were buying tickets. The next weekend, Evan canceled our usual Saturday. He texted, Mom thinks it's better if I stay home. Uncle Ethan's helping me with a school project anyway. A school project. My son was spending Saturdays with my brother, the man who cut me out of everything. I tried to call him, but Laura blocked my number after 2 rings. A notification popped up. Your access to Evan's school portal has been changed. Custody arrangements suddenly under review. Ethan had lawyers whispering in her ear, no doubt. Neighbors started avoiding eye contact. At the grocery store, Mrs. Jenkins from down the street asked too brightly, "So early retirement?" Huh? Early retirement. Like I'd chosen this. Each night I sat at my kitchen table staring at the forged PDF, the slanted D that wasn't mine. The house felt smaller, colder. Even the dog, our old lab Max, seemed to sense the tension, resting his head on my knee as if to remind me someone still believed me. I thought about Dad, about how he used to say, "Trust is steel, son. Hard to bend, easy to snap." Ethan had snapped it clean. By the end of that 3rd week, I was a ghost. No colleagues, no family group chats, no son. My own blood had blocked me like spam. I looked at myself in the mirror one night, eyes rimmed red, beard untrimmed. The man staring back wasn't beaten yet, but he was close. And that was when the resolve hardened. If Ethan wanted me isolated, fine. Let him think I was finished, because the one thing my brother never understood about me was that I build foundations. And when the time came, I'd bring the whole structure down on his head. The breaking point came on a Thursday night. I was eating takeout in front of the muted TV when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. "Mr. Harper?" The voice was brisk, female. "Name's Marianne Lowe, corporate attorney. Someone forwarded me a copy of your share transfer." "It's garbage. You want to fight?" For a moment I couldn't breathe. Finally, someone believed me. We met the next morning at a coffee shop near downtown. Marianne was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, the type who'd lived her career in conference rooms and depositions. She spread the documents across the table, tapping each with a pen. "Sloppy forgery," she said. "Ink density's inconsistent. Notary log doesn't match driver's license records. I've seen interns fake better signatures." I felt heat rush to my face. "So we can prove it?" "With the right expert." She slid a card across the table. "Rhea Sandoval, forensic document examiner. Used to work with the FBI." That afternoon I met Rhea. She studied the PDF printouts through magnifiers, tracing the curves with a stylus. "See this hesitation mark? Natural writer's flow, forger's pause." She circled tiny blotches. "This signature was copied, not written." Hope cracked through me like sunlight after storm. But proof on paper wasn't enough. We needed witnesses. That came from Caleb, a former project manager who'd left the company last year. I ran into him at a supply yard. He looked around nervously before speaking. "Ethan told us last fall you'd sold out, but I was in the meeting where he ordered IT to disable your login. Said you wouldn't be back. Would you swear to that?" He nodded, though fear flickered. "If it comes to it." Marianne gathered everything: expert reports, witness statements, my alibi records from the night the transfer was supposedly notarized. Then she hit the button I hadn't considered: social proof. "We leak selectively," she explained. "Not tabloids, trade forums, construction journals, LinkedIn, places your reputation matters." Within a week, murmurs spread. Did Daniel really walk away? I heard his signature was forged. Something's off at Harper Construction. Ethan noticed. He called one evening, voice coated in false calm. "Brother, you're making noise. It's not smart. Let's settle quietly." Then admit the forgery. Silence. Then a chuckle. "You've always been dramatic, but you'll tire out. No one rallies to a bitter ex-partner." I hung up before he finished. 2 days later, Marianne staged the first public crack. She filed a notice of disputed interest with the county clerk, attaching Ria's preliminary report. The document became public record. Anyone researching the stadium project would see ownership under litigation. By Monday, subcontractors called me. Daniel, what's going on? We don't want to bid if there's fraud risk. Ethan's polished facade began to wobble. At a Chamber of Commerce luncheon, I watched from the back as he dodged questions, sweating under spotlights. Someone had printed the clerk's notice and slid copies on the tables. The man who had paraded my supposed retirement now faced whispers of fraud in rooms he craved most. But I wasn't done. The real storm was still building. Caleb texted at 2 a.m. You need to see this, don't call. Come by my garage. His shop smelled like oil and cedar. He'd spread a laptop and a dozen printed spreadsheets across a workbench, the grain marked up with highlighter streaks. I still have access to the old project file server, he said. Someone forgot to kill a backup credential. He tapped the screen. Your brother runs more than a reorg. He's running money. Columns of dates and amounts lined up like train tracks. Vendor payments to companies I'd never heard of. Every few weeks, 5-figure invoices hit from a consultant called Keystone Logistics LLC, followed by transfers out to Tremont Capital Partners, then to an offshore ABA field, BVI, Blue Parasol Limited, front to Shell, Caleb said. Classic wash. Can you prove Ethan controls them? Caleb opened another window. A Delaware filing for Keystone. Manager listed as Laura Bennett, my ex-wife, acting for and on behalf of a trust tied to Ethan's address. I felt the world tilt. Laura? He nodded grimly. These memo lines help too. He pointed at a bank export. Marketing retainer, Elter Bridge for L, urgent. I swallowed hard. Why would she? Because somebody promised stability, he said. Or she promised it to herself. The printouts blurred. It wasn't just corporate theft now. It was my family's private accounts knotted into the same rope. If we pulled, a lot of people would fall. Marianne's voice cut through the panic when I called her. Good. This is the lever. Money moves leave tracks. We subpoena. We ask for suspicious activity reports. We alert the bank's AML team. They'll outrun us to the finish line. By noon, she had drafted a notice to the U.S. Attorney's Office and the bank's compliance division. By 3, she had a former federal prosecutor on her cell. You want a trigger? She told me. A SAR plus a fraud notice plus a government contract equals immediate attention. We were about to pull when my phone buzzed again. Evan. He never called during school. Dad, he whispered. Mom's not home. I opened the hall closet to grab a binder and there's a box with bank letters and something called Keystone Retainer. Is that bad? My throat tightened. Don't touch anything. Take photos with your phone. Put everything back. And Evan, send them to me from a new email, not your school account. A minute later, my screen filled with images. Envelopes from a private bank, a wire confirmation to Tremont Capital Partners, a sticky note in Laura's handwriting. Ask Ethan about Blue Parasol transfer. He texted again. I'm sorry I believed him. Can I come over this weekend? I closed my eyes. Yes, I said aloud to an empty room. Yes, son. Come home. Marianne assembled a war packet. Caleb's data, Evan's photos, redacted to protect him, and the Delaware filings tying Laura to Keystone. We don't accuse her publicly, she said. Not yet, but we use the fact of the flow. The target is Ethan. Will you tell the feds about Laura? I asked. I will tell them what the documents tell us, she said carefully. They decide the rest. Our immediate priority is stopping a tainted award on a public project and freezing the slush. She wasn't being cold. She was being precise. Precision would save us. At 5 p.m., the bank's AML director called Marianne back. We're already seeing anomalies. ACH patterns flagged last quarter. We'll file an immediate SAR and preemptive holds on the Keystone and Tremont corridors. If there's public money at risk, we have to act. Do it, Marianne said, and notify the city's procurement office. They need to know their bidder is compromised. 10 minutes later, Ethan called me. No hello. What did you do? I didn't bother to pretend. I asked the bank why money keeps leaving the right pockets for the wrong islands. You think you're clever? His voice burned. You're going to blow up your own ex-wife to get to me? You forged my name, I said. You stole my company. You pulled my son into your act. This is me turning on the lights. He hissed a word I hadn't heard since we were teenagers, then hung up. By morning, the city procurement office had paused the stadium announcement pending due diligence. The Chamber of Commerce rumor mill spun itself into a tornado. A local business reporter left 2 voicemails. Marianne told me to ignore them. The courtroom first, the microphones later. Evan showed up that weekend with a duffel bag and eyes that wouldn't hold mine. We made tacos. He ate 2, then finally said, I wanted Uncle Ethan to be the guy he said he was. I'm sorry. I put my hand on his shoulder. Wanting the story doesn't make you blind, kid. Staying in it does. He nodded. What happens to Mom? We tell the truth, I said. Then we let the people paid to deal with this, deal with it. Sunday night, Marianne laid out the final timeline. Monday, we sit down with the assistant U.S. attorney and the AG investigator. Caleb's data gets sworn. The bank's SR hits their system. Procurement stalls Ethan's victory lap. And then, she smiled without warmth. We bring the roof down. I slept badly and dreamed of blueprints, arrows, loads, failure points. In the morning, I realized the dream was a plan. Identify the weak column, hit it once, and let gravity do the rest. At 9 a.m., we walked into a federal conference room with blinds half closed against the Texas sun. The AUSA skimmed Caleb's flowcharts, then Evan's photos, then the Delaware articles. You understand this implies not just fraud but conspiracy to launder proceeds, he asked. I understand, I said, and my voice didn't shake. Good, he replied, because the city is calling us about their stadium award, and the bank just filed a SAR. We're opening a joint tasking with the AG's office. In the meantime, we'll request emergency holds on the Blue Parasol pathway. Marianne slid across one more page. There's a press event tomorrow where Ethan intends to posture as the clean winner of a public contract. If you want to prevent ongoing harm, the prosecutor nodded. Then we time this. We stepped out into the heat, my shirt sticking to my back, and I felt the twist complete itself. This wasn't a family argument, not anymore. It was a criminal structure with my brother's name hidden in its beams, and we were about to knock it down in front of the whole city. If you're listening on Revenge Stories Menu 50, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. Thank you. The press conference was staged like theater. Rows of folding chairs filled the civic auditorium. Banners for the stadium project stretched across the stage. Ethan stood at the podium in a tailored suit, teeth white, voice smooth. Cameras clicked like cicadas. Today, he declared, Harper Construction begins a new chapter, one built on vision, integrity, and family legacy. I almost laughed at the last word. Integrity. Legacy. He'd burned both to ashes. Marianne sat beside me in the audience, binder balanced on her lap. Evan sat on my other side, jaw tight, eyes fixed forward. Caleb was 2 rows behind us, his phone ready to stream. The assistant U.S. attorney and investigator Moore waited in the wings, plain suits blending with staff. Timing mattered. The fall had to be public. Ethan spoke for 15 minutes about community pride, job creation, economic growth. Then he gestured to the mayor, who rose to join him. The contract award was seconds away. Marianne touched my arm. Now. I stood. My voice carried sharper than I expected. You're forgetting part of the story, Ethan. The crowd turned. Flashbulbs popped. Ethan froze mid-smile. Daniel, he said, forced calm. Ladies and gentlemen, my brother has been forged signatures, shell companies, offshore accounts. I pulled a folder from my jacket and held it up. You built this stadium on fraud. Gasps rippled. Reporters surged forward. Marianne walked to the stage steps and handed the binder directly to Investigator Moore. He flipped it open, showing the first exhibit, the forensic report proving my signature was forged. Then came Caleb's flowcharts. Money funneled through Keystone Logistics, Tremont Capital, and Blue Parasol. And finally, the photo Evan had taken. Laura's sticky note. Ask Ethan about Blue Parasol transfer. The mayor's face drained of color. Is this true? He demanded. Ethan tried to bluster. Ridiculous accusations from a bitter ex-partner. Then why is your ex-sister-in-law listed as manager of your Shell LLC? Marianne's voice sliced through the hall. Why does the bank have suspicious activity reports on your transfers? Why does the Delaware filing trace back to your home address? Flashbulbs stuttered. Ethan's polish cracked. Moore stepped forward, badge visible. Mr. Ethan Harper, federal investigators have found probable cause of fraud and conspiracy to launder funds. You're under arrest. The auditorium exploded. Reporters shouted questions, cameras snapped, murmurs rose to shouts. Ethan's face twisted from denial to fury. He pointed at me as agents cuffed his wrists. You think this makes you a hero? You'll regret this, Danny. I held his stare. You erased me with a pen stroke. Today the whole city saw who you really are. Laura, sitting near the back, tried to slip out, but 2 investigators intercepted her. Not handcuffs, yet, but enough to make her pale. Evan saw it all. His hand trembled as it found mine. The mayor stepped back to the podium, voice unsteady. This press event is adjourned. The city will suspend all dealings with Harper Construction pending investigation. It was over. As agents led Ethan past us, he leaned close enough for me to hear, voice guttural. You betrayed blood. I whispered back. Blood betrayed me first. The cameras caught his scowl, the cuffs, the collapse of a man who thought the world was his stage. I walked out with my son, the Texas sun blinding but clean. For the first time in months, the weight lifted. Ethan had wanted me erased. Instead, his name would be etched in court records, headlines, and the shame of every investor who once shook his hand. And mine would stand. The week after the arrest, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Some calls were reporters, others were relatives. Most I ignored. After months of silence and blame, the sudden flood of voices felt hollow. Aunt Lydia left a message. Daniel, we didn't know. We're so sorry. Uncle Don texted. Family's embarrassed. Maybe you could help Ethan with leniency. I stared at the words, half amused, half bitter. When I was alone and branded a liar, no one lifted a finger. Now that Ethan sat in county lockup, suddenly I was the one with power. Laura called once, late at night. I let it ring until voicemail. Her voice trembled. Daniel, I made mistakes. I was scared. Ethan promised security. Please, Don't let Evan hate me. I deleted the message. I wasn't judge or jury for her. The courts would handle what the evidence showed. Evan, though, he was different. Saturday afternoon, he sat across from me at the kitchen table, a soda sweating in his hands. Dad, I didn't believe you at first. I thought Uncle Ethan was helping. I was wrong. His shoulders hunched like he carried all of it. I reached across, resting my hand on his arm. You're 17, son. You wanted to trust people who said the right words. That's not weakness, that's hope. Don't lose it. He nodded, eyes wet. What about Mom? I swallowed. She'll answer for her part. I don't know how much. But you don't have to choose sides between parents. You just have to choose what's right. That night I lay awake, asking myself if forgiveness had a place here. Could I forgive Ethan for years of schemes, for forging my name, for turning my own son against me? Could I forgive Laura for joining the plot, for hiding money in closets? The answer came quiet but clear. No, not because I wanted revenge, but because forgiveness without accountability isn't forgiveness. It's surrender. So when Marianne asked, "Do you want to weigh in at sentencing? Push for leniency?" I shook my head. I'll speak the truth. Nothing more, nothing less. And in that moment, I knew the choice wasn't about punishing Ethan. It was about refusing to carry his weight anymore. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters the day Ethan's indictment went public. I didn't speak to them. Marianne handled the press. Caleb slipped out a side door, and I walked straight through the swarm with Evan at my side. Back home, I sat on the porch of the old Harper house. For months, it had been a symbol of loss, the place Ethan tried to erase me from with a forged pen stroke. Now it felt different. Not reclaimed, not yet, but honest again. The key box was gone. No tricks, just a front door with my name still on the deed. Evan leaned against the railing. So what now, Dad? I looked out at the yard where we used to play catch. Now we rebuild. Maybe not the company, maybe not even the family the way it was, but we rebuild us. He nodded, quiet but steady. For the first time in years, I saw trust in his eyes. Not blind trust, the earned kind. A month later, a competitor offered me a directorship. Higher salary, cleaner books, no family politics. I took it. Walking into that office on my first day, I felt lighter. Not because the past disappeared, but because it no longer owned me. At night, I still think about Dad, about how he said trust was steel. I used to think Ethan had snapped it, but maybe he just bent it, hard enough that I finally saw where it was weak. On Sunday mornings, Evan comes over. We cook breakfast, play cards, talk about college. The silence that once lived between us has thinned. In its place is something sturdier. Respect, earned piece by piece. Laura sent another letter through her attorney. I didn't open it. Some doors stay shut. Standing on that porch at sunset, I breathed deep. The air was warm, the house solid under my feet. Ethan's name would live in indictments, in headlines, in cautionary tales at business schools. Mine would live in the work I kept doing, the bridges and stadiums that would stand long after this feud faded. And for the first time in a long time, I felt the freedom to say the words out loud. I choose me. I choose me. Tell me what you'd do. Drop your story and subscribe Revenge Stories Men U50 USA.